Yo, welcome to another episode of Source and Company. I am your host, Source, of course. As always, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Smitty Source on both of those. Where else? Well, subscribe to the Source and Company YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google, something, all of them. Just subscribe to all of them. And last but not least, the Instagram for this show, which is Source, Source, the letters NCO, Source NCO Podcast. All right, enough of that. All right, so let's get into it. Today's company is a producer. He's a producer from the 804. Believe it or not,
Sure.
I didn't know for a while, and then I learned that later on in life, and I was shocked to find out who this guy was. Anyway, he is a producer. Produced for Most Def, the whole Rawkus. Let's just go Rawkus and Lyricist Lounge Time. A lot of underground hip hop, and we'll get into all that in a minute. And you got your drum stacks too. Drum stacks. Hopefully
Right.
talk about that a little bit.
Right.
Today's company, Shawn J. Period. What up, bro?
Hey, man. Thank you, brother.
Yes, sir. Good to see you.
Good, man. Thank you, man. And we off the bat, we have to thank Ali, for hooking this up. I think you said he and Carlos were talking online or something, right?
Mhm.
And paired us up. So we got to give the props to the brothers off the bat.
Absolutely. Shout out to Ali.
Yeah.
So how you been, man?
Doing good, man. Just obviously this year has been an interesting year. But the thing is too, it makes you appreciate health. I mean, we kind of take for granted. We just move around and get into different ventures and things like that. But just grateful for that. But everything is great, man. New York is up and down in the cases and all this stuff like that. But we it's good to look. This is a good time to be a producer too, and I work as well. But the producers can be in the house still doing what they do. You know what I mean?
Thanks,
So
thanks. Producers like to be in the house anyway, half of
exactly.
Yeah, man. So you, like you said, you're in New York. Actually, it's odd because probably 60% of the people I've talked to that aren't still in Richmond or in the area are
Mhm.
in New York, LA, or Atlanta so far. It's those three cities. It's like
Wow.
everybody's migrated to those places. You
Wow.
actually bounced out of here at 19, but we'll get into that in a minute.
Right.
How has the COVID space been for you? Like you mentioned, you're in the house and you're a producer, but it's a lot to it. Plus, New York is tight. Like it's been tight for a minute.
Yeah, it has. Obviously, when COVID came in, because I also work, I do work in the city as well. I'm not as much anymore, but working at like the stagehand, so like entertainment, theaters, all kinds of stuff like that, and riding the trains. Right, I remember at that point, it was like you could tell because you would always get a lot of tourists coming from different places,
Mhm.
and particularly like the Asians, typically, they would you would see Asians wearing masks just throughout the years, even before this. I think because just the experience they've had in their countries with whether it be smog or things of that nature. And but I just remember like, wow, like this thing is really taking a hold, to the point where it really locked down. And like I said, fortunately, we were to the point where we order food from Instacart, and like just kind of trying to figure it out, and wiping stuff down when it comes to the door, like so just all kinds of stuff, but overall, man, it's like I think it lasted way longer than I think anybody would have expected, right? But you got to the point where the I think the intrinsic value that came out of it was, I didn't realize how much I am on the go, and how much time I been able to spend with my family. You know what I mean? Like game nights and movie nights. I did it, but not as much, right?
Yeah,
So so really getting deeper into the things, the value of what it has brought out. You know what I mean? So, but and obviously, sorry for all the deaths and people that have experienced it and stuff like that. Prayers to those folks. Just in being comforted and stuff like that. So.
yeah. You mentioned the game nights. My oldest daughter is at college, But she came, I went and got her on short story. My youngest daughter runs track. We
Okay.
were coming to New York on Thursday, the 12th. The 11th is when the NBA shut down.
Oh wow. Okay.
So we were coming to New York for a track meet, for the national track meet. And
Wow. Okay. Okay.
the school, well, the parents decided to pull out on Wednesday afternoon. And then Thursday morning, they canceled it. Man, if it would have been a day later, man, we would have got stuck in New York. I would have been unhappy. Yeah, hopefully we get back up there next year.
Yeah, no, that'd be good to have you.
But yeah, so let's take it back a little bit. Let's take it back. I mentioned that you are from the 804, right? Born?
Right. Yeah, man. Born in actually born in Charles City, so I don't even know the area code in Charles City.
We're gonna go with 804.
But technically born in Richmond, but grew up in Charles City, and then from there moved to Henrico. So and went to Varina and stuff. That's how I know Ali and Carlos and all those guys.
Yeah, yeah. And we actually went to school together for a year.
Right.
And then right after the high school, I guess how long was it after high school before you rolled out?
So I graduated, let's say 92. So I went to VCU, and now this is a perfect segue about the hat, the hat you have on, right? So went to VCU for 2 years, and the color of your hat is what?
Black and gold.
It looked purple in the thing. That's why I was like, wait a minute, they changed the color? Because look, your shirt looks black, but the hat looks a little purple, right? But I mean, obviously, the different shades have black, plays out. So, but I was going to say, man, I always thought it was black and gold, man. But yeah, no, I went to VCU, and then 2 years, basically like at the end of my sophomore year. So I technically didn't graduate. You know what I mean? I was in a pre-physical therapy at the time, and so at that point, we went to New York. We were assigned to the group was down south. So it was myself and my cousin Jeremy, who went to Highland Springs, and then Mayor, or John, as you know him, when you say you play basketball with him.
Yes, sir.
So we went, and his family actually lived in New York. So we went and stayed with his family for a number of years. They were just great to us, coming from, boys coming from Virginia up to New York. We needed a nice little place to stay,
Well, hold up. Now, you said y'all went up. So when you went up, you were already signed?
We were signed, yeah. That was the only way we were allowed to even go. Like, look,
so
you have to.
How did we get there? How did we get from? First of all, how did we even get into the music? But how did we get from we shipping out these demos, I guess, to Big B? It was Big B, right?
So Big B, yeah, Big B to Atlantic. So I mean, I was doing music, me personally, for years. So let's say with my other cousin Marlon, and I guess I was in the 3rd grade before that was the official. I went to a New York City Fresh Fest concert, at the Coliseum, you know what I mean? And then and I was hooked then. I was like, Davey DMX and Fat Boys, whatever, it was just, and then at that point, just rapping and stuff like that. And then in high school, that's actually Ali was into DJing, and so a lot of guys in music, and then got in a group I was with Rusty, and Clarence, and all kinds of different people, right? So we doing all types of things. Corey Valentine, all kinds of different people. But you just bringing back the memories, man. I'm like, but it's a good music scene at Varina, and then when we got to when I went to college, it was my cousin and 2 other Trey and Nikki. We formed the J Team. So the J Team name, we doing stuff on the college campuses and stuff like that. And then eventually it became John, which you played basketball with, went to school with, and my cousin, and we would go to Atlanta to like Jack the Rapper, and just the hustling, everybody just doing the demos or whatever. And then John, actually, his aunt worked with Russell Simmons, or Rush Communications and stuff. So he would come back in Christmas time and the summers and stuff like that. So he took our demo to New York and shopped it around, and then Stretch and Bobito, but specifically Bobito, from the Stretch and Bobbito show. They he let him hear the demo because they worked together at Def Jam, and from there they liked it. And then because Stretch and Bob had the show, Stretch was an A&R at Big Beat, right? So the connective tissue starts to go. One guy introduced it to another, and then it's like and then go from there. So that's how we ultimately got the demo to them, and then end up moving to New York.
And you were what, 19 at the time?
19 at the time I moved, yeah. So we signed. We signed. It was Christmas of my sophomore year, and then then we went through the rest of that semester, and then we moved right at the end of the semester.
Wow.
So 92.
And out of that signing came the single Southern Comfort, which
right. And look, it took us a long time to make that album, man, because we went up there. I think, if I remember correctly, I think we did sign the agreement as the J team, right? But because it was the J, Jones, John Haas, whatever. So but in the process, it was just like being in New York and just learning a new environment, all this stuff. And then we were paired up with like the Beat Nuts, that label, Reef, who was the A&R at Big Beat, because Stretch was A&R, but he was transitioning. So it was like Reef, Rob Reef Too Low. So they connected us with all kinds of producers to work on the album. So it said the Beat Nuts, T-Ray. I feel like they were the main ones on the album. And I think the Funkaholics, who were from Richmond, they did some stuff, and whatever. So we were working on different things. And in the process, we went through a lot, man. I mean, like learning ourselves, being away from home, and then the album started to take long, and then they wanted us to come up with another name, right? So we were going through all kinds of names, and and then eventually the name Down South came, because obviously being down south, right? And it was just, and I think Arrested Development at the time was like big, so the Southern stuff. So it was like, okay, we could kind of go that route. And then that's when the album came, Up North. I can't even forget the album name now. That's bad. Some Lost in Brooklyn, actually, is the name of the album, right? I would say I keep saying Up North, but it was because it was the whole play on Down South and then Lost.
That would have been interesting. The title, North.
Yeah, but that was actually one of the things we talked about. You know what I mean? So Down South and then Up North, but that was scrapped and it became Lost in Brooklyn. You know what I mean? Wow. But so yeah, no, but it was interesting times, man. Went through a lot of emotional things amongst ourselves and stuff like that. But it was good though. It was a good time.
Dang, bro, like you saying, well, connecting you, Big Beat, then I think about Skillz. You mentioned Beat Nuts, so see how all those things kind of connected together through whomever.
And we can talk about Skillz too, because that's a fascinating story in itself,
Well, let's go there right now.
Okay. Yeah. So Skillz, I didn't know Skillz from Richmond. You know what I mean? I just knew, went there, and then when we were dropped from the label, we had the album come out, we had the single, everything like that, and then the label just transitioned. A lot of times, and this happens in anything, whether you have a group of people who believe in what you're doing, they're going with you, and then a whole new group of people come in and they have a new vision, right? So basically, that was one of the reasons. And obviously record sales and stuff, we were just getting started, you know what I mean? But at that point, it was like, okay, well, they're going to move in another direction and stuff like that. So fine. But through the relationship with Rob at the label, when I ultimately became an independent producer, just going and, doing things, I went back to him through, relationships, and Skillz was signed to Big Beat at that time. So through the connection by me previously being on the label, obviously it connected us. And then, because actually the Skillz project was the first, I did 3 songs on the album, and that was actually the first album. 3, yeah.
Inherit the World.
All in It, and it's another, I can't remember the other one. Yeah, it was 3, and I think Street Rules, I think, is the name of it. But so I met him in New York, you know what I mean? And so we were connected and stuff like that. And, you know, grateful to him because that was my first project as, you know, an independent producer. Right. But that project is pretty historic, man, because I mean, that actually was one of, I can't say it was exactly the one, but like Dilla was on that album, the Beat Nuts, you know, a bunch of people. Right. So that album really just set me up to, first of all, it paid me enough to not have to work at the post office. I had already did my interview and everything, bro. I was like, man. And then right when I was like, dude, I want to be a producer, man. I want to, you know, and when the resources came in from it, I was able to, you know, go full time, I guess, as a producer, you know, struggling producer, but still.
Right.
You
I was gonna say because New York is not cheap. Even then, New York was not cheap, and trying to hold up, trying to live up there. At that time, had you bounced from? I guess you had bounced from John's.
No. That's the thing. That's what we stayed with them. Even after the label, I mean, his aunts, man, his family just was so great to. They were gracious to us for so long, man. You know that even beyond when we were on the label, we lived there. You know what I mean, for a while. So, you know, I mean, most Def would come to the house. Like we were all kind of doing our different things. You know what I mean? But, you know.
Yeah, but how did it? Well, obviously, the underground scene in New York is totally different than the underground scene anywhere else, especially
right.
Richmond. But you mentioned Most Def. I definitely was going to talk about Most Def because Black Star album is one of my favorite albums, hands down. And you did Children's Story and Hater Players, right?
Correct.
Yeah, but before that, you worked with Most on some single stuff, right?
Singles, yeah. So his the Universal Magnetic single. So it was basically Universal Magnetic and If You Hung You Can Hear, you know, and actually with that album, I met him through, I was working with the Bush Babies. We were connected through our road manager for down south, Joey, connected me with Mr. Man from the Bush Babies. You know, it's always connective tissue, right? Yeah. So, and I was working on their album, the Gravity album, and we were at Battery Studios, and Most was they knew each other, Mr. Man and Most, and he brought him in to do like a poetry type thing on the intro outro, and I did the beat. So that's when we first met, and then we, you know, connected and stuff like that. And actually that's I met Dilla at that time too. In that same, I never worked with him, but just like in the sessions, you know, that's what people.
That's enough.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. But going through the process, so it's interesting. Universal Magnetic was the Bush Babies were finishing up their album, and so they were like, oh, we want to come up with the last single, you know, whatever. So I had, you know, that song, the intro, outro, and I think two other songs, something like that. And so I went home that night, you know, working and stuff, and I actually did Universal Magnetic for them, right? So there's like this bird in there, like this bird would always, in the morning time when I'm working in the basement, would always be chirping outside, you know what I mean? So I actually stuck the mic out the window. I'm always into like sounds and stuff, recorded, put the bird in there, everything like that. And I think they chose a Paz the New song that became a single and stuff like that. So great, you know. So when Mr. Man brought Most to the house, you know, after those sessions and stuff, he actually picked the Universal Magnetic beat, you know, which is that's why, look, if sometimes things don't work out in one way, particularly if you do music or anything creative and stuff, don't worry about that, because it's like it always gets into the right hands at the right time. You know what I mean? So yeah, so that's how, and then Most got a single deal with Rawkus.
Right.
And then from there, that's why, and we were rolling together at the time. So that's why we did both songs.
That's dope. And that led to what, the Lyricist Lounge? I mean, that led to a gamut of stuff, right?
Yeah, the Body Rock.
Just so you know, this is like one of my favorite times, this session right there. That Rawkus time.
Right.
I love that time. Lyricist Lounge, all that. That's all me.
Yeah, man. Now, I mean, look, living through it, I guess, and looking back on it, it was, I mean, think about it. Even the summers during that time were amazing. Like, you know what I mean? No matter where you were, Richmond, right, you know, because I would come back and forth and stuff. And it was like just such a sweet time for us. You know, I'm sure other generations have their time, but you're right. It was like such a like just a great time where you had it was organic, meaning like you had so many different types of hip hop coexisting. You know what I mean? You had the Snoop Dogs next to the Black Sheeps, next to Tribe, like all of these different things, you know, the Rawkus stuff. And everybody had their lane, their place, you know, that the people who followed that particular thing. So it was a great time, you know, just thinking back on it. So I agree.
So again, just so you know, I mentioned the Black Star album.
Mhm.
My favorite group.
Mm.
Most was, I mean, excuse me, Q-Tip was on the Body Rock joint.
Right.
You got Black Star. Um, I I saw a video actually, jumping forward a little bit. I saw a
Mhm.
video of you were talking about going to Ohio and you were with, I guess, High Tech and Quality.
Mm.
Like 2 years ago for
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So I'll put that trip was it was important from a connective, just connecting with them again as you know friends and stuff. So the Black Star album actually started in you know, I guess Rawkus may have approached them to do a project together, right? Most and Quali. So Most was in California doing some movie or television type stuff or whatever. And also the Lyricist Lounge folks were out there when they were doing the Lyricist Lounge show and you know all of that stuff.
that
You know,
that show. Just jumping in again.
yeah.
One of the classic moment that I remember most is I think it was Words and Most.
Mm.
Words and Most at the end freestyling on the like they want
The
to
Lyricist Lounge.
bruh
Yeah.
memories. But anyway,
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, but it all ties in because during that time, you know, I had met Anthony and oh, I'm sorry, Anthony and the folks at Lyricist Lounge and Danny Castro, sorry, and you know they approached me about doing this stuff, whatever. But we, you know, we just connected with them. And then when the Black Star thing, so basically, Quali and I flew out from New York on a Tower Air, which is now defunct airlines. I think it was the old Pan Am planes or something. It was like
you can say the spirit, the old spirit.
yeah, it was look, it was only it was a 747, only one left from New York. It was like one plane, one time a day and coming back. So
Okay.
yeah, so Tower. So Quali and I went out there, and Most was already out there, you know, doing his television stuff, doing the Lyricist Lounge filming, and then High Tech flew out there. So the Black Star album actually started in California. We flew out there, the four of us were together, and a friend of ours, Kendra Ross, her uncle had some like home studio, so we started it there. We ended up like revamping it and stuff like that, and then from that point came back to New York, and you know they you know went on to produce you know more songs and stuff like that. And I'll tell you the story about how that was kind of my split from the group. So well, actually I'll tell it now because that's important to why the the um the Ohio trip was important.
Oh, from the group as in you four.
Yeah, the four of us, like we were the core. I was basically Moses' producer, and High Tech was Quali's producer or Tyler's producer. So if you look even on the Black Star album, you'll see at the very bottom the artwork. It's like a little picture of me and a little picture of High Tech. You know what I mean? At the bottom of the artwork, right? So, but at that point, for me, I had just became born again. Grew up Christian and stuff like that, but was becoming more devout and like I was sampling. Like I have nothing against sampling, but I knew what I was doing. I knew I was stealing. I knew whatever, and it was just like that's and I just the conviction, and it was just like that. And when I really and most and I have songs that I never released because I was like I don't know where I got the stuff. It was this whole thing, and he was going through his spiritual journey too. And so it put me in a place where I didn't know what my new sound would be, right? And it was like, so I literally stopped working with them because it's like, I was like, I can't put this stuff out, you know what I mean? Other than what they already had or whatever like that. So and then I got married at that time. And it was just like, my life was going in one direction. And then and that's when the three of them went and blew up as Black Star and did so that's why I only technically had two on there and why I didn't have any on the Most album because we weren't as connected. so fast forward to the question about Ohio. About it's going on like a little bit over 2 years ago. They were doing the New York City. I'm sorry, I say the what is it? Cincinnati Funk Fest, which is an event in Ohio. So I knew High Tech and I would talk from time to time. Talib and I, most and I hadn't talked as much. So I said, High Tech, you know what? I want to come out there, man. All of us like get this to see us all together. The original four. So producer I managed, Kelsey and I, we flew out there. And so High Tech knew I was coming. Most didn't know, and Talib didn't know. So
Wow.
so we saw High Tech, Love at the arena. And then, I was able to see Most, like, I hadn't seen him in years, you know what I mean? And then Talib, saw him, and then that's where if you see the Instagram, and like the four of us actually took that picture. So that was like the four of us, the original four from the Black Star, getting together, after talking about years. I couldn't even count the years, man. You know what I mean? So and technically we hadn't been together, the four of us, since we started the album. So let's say that in California.
Jeez.
Yeah, the four of us together.
That's 20 years. That's about 19.
Yeah, man.
Probably 20 if you're talking the start of the album.
Right.
That's crazy. And I never knew any of that as far as the 4-man thing. I never knew any of that. That's all brand new information.
Yeah.
Sheesh. That's crazy.
Yeah, man. Yeah, but it's good brothers though. You know what I mean? But it's sometime in life look, like I have folks in Richmond, you know what I mean? Like obviously now between you and I, we'll connect when I come. Now that I met, like I met you in high school, right? But now that we connected, of course we'll go build outside of that, and when I come back to Virginia and stuff like that. But it's just connecting with people is just so important, and sometimes you take it for granted. You're living your current life, and you can, not that you forget, people, because everyone gets busy in their thing. We all have friends, like the job friends, right? And when you leave your job, not your friends, it's just like you have your new set because that's where you currently are. But obviously they're more important to me than just, I've had industry friends, that people, that associates that I just, I was around them and then I'm not, but they're not that type, you know what I mean? So, but anyway, yeah. So
that's wild. So you mentioned spiritual journey and becoming more devout. That part actually I heard.
Okay.
But I thought I didn't know if it was a rumor or just
right.
Like what happened to where's Shawn J? I don't know. So what did that lead to though? Like did that make you want to stop doing secular music, or was it something? You mentioned the sampling thing, which is another conversation. Like you really internalized that thing to the point of looking at the artist who made the music back whenever they made it and them not getting their royalties. I guess
correct.
Both sides from being
and that's what it was about. Because they would teach you kind of to figure out how you can hide it, and to the point where I was so in it, like to make sure I called the copyright, like to ask them, like, because people talked about the 8-bar rule and you could use 8-bar. I'm like, can you really do this? Like, you know what I'm saying? I just wanted the piece about it. As far as I'm concerned, the record is just a source of material. And I just felt convicted, like, these people put in this work and I'm using it to, to make this other thing, to make revenue off. You know what I mean? It's like, why would I do that? You wouldn't want to work on a job, 40 hours and then you get ready to get your paycheck and then someone said, oh, thank you. You know what I'm saying? Like that was it. It wasn't deep, and I ended up not really working with that many Christian artists at all. So it wasn't even like I didn't want to work. I still work with quote unquote secular artists now. You know what I mean? It's like, I love people. I love, the music and stuff like that. I may not agree with every piece of content, but it's beyond, just the music as much as the building the relationship. Because even if, I'm planting or watering something, you know what I mean? Encouraging them in something and not beating them over the head with it. You know what I mean? But just, just giving them a word like, man, the way you spend time with your daughter, man, it's just awesome. And encouraging that, like, that's just as much part of the gospel as me telling you a specific scripture or like you know what I'm saying? So that freed me up to really be able to work with pretty much anybody. You know what I mean? Because everybody had, I believe, everybody has some type of redemptive quality, you know, to them. Even the guy who's the hardest of hard guy, you know what I mean? They may be great with their kids, or like, you know what I'm saying? You know, love their mom, whatever. You know what I mean? So that was it, man. The sampling thing, and I think because so many people were doing it, it became a thing, right? And I wasn't there to clarify, nor was I clear in my own mind about it anyway. You know what I'm saying? I was young and, you know, stuff like that. So, but now I look back on it, it's just a decision I made that, you know, I don't regret. You know what I mean? Obviously, it changed the course of my life. You know what I mean? Family, where I have, you know, my family now and stuff. I could have been in music. Who knows? You know what I mean? I may not have met, you know, my wife. I was divorced and remarried and stuff like that. But, you know, I wouldn't change it again, bro. Like, you know what I mean? My family, you know, because I just wouldn't, you know.
That's the key right there. You wouldn't
Yeah,
change. And I mean, like you said, we all go through different things and choose a path one way or the other. And the other side of that, it can be something greater than you even thought you were going to get from that original path.
for sure, for sure. Now, look, I can't lie, like the potential monies and all of that stuff like that, and you know,
I mean,
but
yeah.
yeah, of course. But I can't look back on and say, you know, if I was able to have met, you know, my wife and all the different things and still have my family, all the stuff like that, it's like, you know, and still have that, cool, but probably wouldn't happen that way. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing.
So
That's it right there. That's it right there. So more recently, you took I don't know what to call it. You made, I guess, an entrepreneurial decision to start I guess it's a company called Drumstack.
Drumstack, yeah. So sound
Break it down.
design. Yeah.
Break it
Yeah,
down.
go ahead. What'd you say?
Break it down for me. Break down what.
Okay. Yeah, so wow. Uh let's see, about it'll be 3 years now. Like I went I always been doing sound design anyway. Just like I mentioned earlier about the bird, you know, in the song, and like, you know, for the Artifacts album, that was another group that was on Big Beat, stuff like that. You know,
Another group. Come on, man. Tame it.
yeah.
Of course.
Now I'm not saying another group as dismissive. I'm just saying like another group on Big Beat that I work with. But actually though, that we have to talk about them, because that they really saw, to the point where I did 7 songs on that album. They really gave me a chance to really go in, you know, just like most did, but most was with like singles, whereas theirs was a part of an album. But I had recorded, just like on I think it's Return to the Wrong Side. I had a DAT recorder that Duro, the engineer that we were working and stuff, had loaned to me, and I recorded the subway ride from Brooklyn to the studio in Manhattan, and then I put it very low below Return to the Wrong Side, so you could hear the tracks and the, you know, all this stuff like that. So I'm just always into sound design stuff. So about 3 years ago, went to Atlanta to the A3C event. Didn't even really attend. I was going to record something. And my lawyer down there, Vinny Kumar, who actually, he's from Richmond too. He might be a good person to connect you with.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. That we have to figure that out. But he's so busy, bro. It's like, he's just so busy, man. I mean, you know, he does stuff, law work for Future, all kinds of people. He's yeah, you know. So, but he had connected me with Jonathan Master, I can't remember the S, is who's Elmon. He's a big time producer. His the manager, they were talking about the sound design thing and the kits, because Elmon was like one of the major guys who broke out and, you know, did it. Sound design has always been around, but he really took it and brought it to the producer doing the sounds and stuff, not just a company or something. Right. So in the process, you know, they mentioned it to me, and I'm like, you know, and I was already doing it for myself and, you know, think about it. But then I started really going, and I'm like, man, and I was going to do something with them. Atlas is a guy who works with them. And then I realized, like, for me, like, I still want to be able to experiment. I don't necessarily want to be A&R to like, yeah, do you like this? Do you not? So it birthed Drumstacks And drum stacks, it's a sound design, but it's also like eventually podcasts, like you're doing, like, you know, advice with, because all of us have that drum beat within, and it's like, what are the things that you build upon it? Music I can't get rid of, no matter how many other jobs I have, no matter whatever, it's still in me. It's still in you. You know what I mean? No matter what you do, you're still doing, you know, what you're doing.
Bars. I'm just joking.
You know what I mean? But you build on it, right?
Right.
So from the sound design standpoint, I wanted to be able to experiment, right? And not necessarily have to sell it, you know, 30 for this, 30 for that, 30, because every time you become your own competition. Let's say you had no competition. Soon as you offer another product next to your product, you
Mhm.
make people choose. And
Yep.
as soon as you offer a next product, you make people choose. You know what I mean? So from that perspective, I was like, man, you know, I want the freedom to really experiment, not necessarily do the conventional thing. You know what I mean? And really have fun with the sounds and running through with guitar pedals and like recording, you know, the rain, but then running it through some crazy like stuff, but usable stuff. You know what I mean? That producers could use. So I decided that Shawn, actually Shawn Money, who did all like of G months, all the stuff like that. He, you know, friend of mine and stuff. And we were talking about pricing. And it was like, yeah, I started with like 59. He said, do you buy? He said, do you buy sample packs and stuff? I said, no, not really. He said, wait, you think about the price, right? So we were talking about pricing and stuff. So I ended up going to 39.99. So basically you just paying the one time instead of paying over and over. So I'm
So
actually about to launch after all this time. I've had some fits and starts with it and stuff like that, but launching like soon. And it'll be a 39.99. You just pay one time. And I just keep adding in there 100 and plus sounds a month, you know, for the producers. And you just, once you sign up, you know, you just get it. And eventually it will stop, but it's gonna be way more on the benefit, made way more to the benefit of the producers than myself. You know what I mean? Because it still gives me the freedom to just do what I want to do. You know what I mean? So
sound library for producers
producers, yeah, yeah, yeah,
talking drum kits and
yeah. The
snare.
sounds, melodies, whatever. Even down to like record pops. That's the thing that really made me realize like that I was on to something personally for myself like because I don't sample right as much. You know, I'm not saying I never would ever again, but
Yeah.
let's say I always love the texture of record pops, right? When you hear it, right? And when you put it on the beginning of the record, some records are just destroyed and it's just sound like white noise pops and then some are light. But then I thought like that's the example I use to why the 39 one time. Because if I was trying to sell you 20 sounds, right? Different record pops and stuff like that, you were like, I don't know if I want to buy that, right? But if it's packaged within this open-ended sound design thing, and it's like, yeah, I'm throwing kicks in there, snares and melodies and 20 record pops, you will accept it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
And then here's something that you never would have gotten yourself. You never would have purchased it. But now
Right,
this package is
right,
there, you're like, oh my gosh, I got this right here. Let me go ahead and throw that.
right. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? So it's all about the freedom. You know what I mean? And then money wise, it adds up. It's good, but it's stuff I would do for myself, and it's just sharing it with people. You know what I mean?
That's
So
dope, bro. That's dope.
yeah.
If you don't mind, you mentioned what did you well, do you mind saying what you do with your
What do you mean?
day gig?
Oh, they audio visual technician. So basically, I'm part of the stagehands union in the city. So theater stuff like that, but all you know, really, it's like handling like it could be anything from mixing a show like I worked at like jazz clubs and stuff to doing video projection to you know so it's audio visual and
Yeah.
it's funny bro because I'm like it's so many people in music that were deeper in music and audio visual. I don't know what that connection is, you know what I'm saying, but yeah, day to day and it keeps me it's not exactly you know, record producing and all that stuff like that. But I've learned so much about just like graphics and video and stuff, the things that help outside of that when you're thinking about looks of camera and the type of camera and you know all the stuff like that. So it's good learning. It's like getting paid to go to school, man. It's just, you know, something different than what I'm doing, you know, but
That's dope.
yeah.
I man, listen, we're not done. I mean, I would talk to you about this stuff all day and just
Sure.
soak it in because I love hip hop. I love music. But we did mention Lyricist Lounge. One of us mentioned Lyricist Lounge.
Right.
You did the OC Ras Kass joint.
Yes.
Was that from one? Lyricist Lounge one?
I think so. I don't know. To be honest, I actually look. I thought about that. I'm like, it may have been two, but I don't remember. You know what I mean? I need to remember now. You know.
I guess the details are not important. The fact is, you did the song.
Right. But I think it was on one, and then because two was the one. No, it was one because two was the one that had "Oh No" on it,
Yes.
with Most and March and stuff. So
March. Interesting. Today, even though this won't come out probably for another week or two, today is the 21st anniversary of Internal Affairs. Not that you have anything to do with that, but that is just a beautiful time in my life. And you mentioned March, so I had to say it.
Right. Yeah, March is a great dude. I did some stuff with him too. It was a single I did with Elder Sensei. It was released through Guess Why, my friend Matt's label, stuff like that. So Frontline, it was a bunch of different people on there, and you know, yeah, March is good. We used to be in the studio when they were Organized Confusion. He and Prince Pro were working on stuff down the hall when during the Bush Baby sessions. They were.
That had to be Equinox then.
Say it again.
That had to be when they was doing Equinox because that was around the same time, 96, 97-ish.
Yeah. They were down the hall at Battery doing it. You know, you had the Roots in there, the earlier Roots. You know what I mean? And you know, it's good. But these are just at that point, y'all are all rubbing shoulders. You're not even thinking about it until years later. They become. You see what people have become in life, or you know, things like that.
It's funny because it reminds me of a young lady I used to work with. I don't know, we were talking about clubs or music or whatever. I was like, yeah, I saw, Tupac came to Ivory's and blah, blah, blah. You saw Tupac live? Hey, so I get it. It wasn't a big deal at the time, but later on you look back and like, yo, I saw Tupac live. Like, live. Crazy.
At Ivory's.
At Ivory's, the greatest club of all clubs, my personal opinion, but that's a whole nother.
Right. What was that? Okay, so you speak about clubs in Richmond. What was the club that's right? It was right below VCU on Broad Street. It was like in the second floor. So like the McDonald's. So what is it? I mean, literally is right below VCU, and it was like a club. Oh man, what was the band? That club was crazy, bro. I love going to the club.
I'm like, what are we talking?
It's right next to a grocery store. And you come around the corner. It's literally on Broad. It was on Broad.
On Broad?
On Broad, bro. I don't remember it, man. I don't remember the name.
Now I got to tell the people in Richmond, I've never been to the Trop. So if it's the Trop, then I wouldn't know the answer because I literally never went to the Trop.
Nah, I don't remember that. But that club was crazy. That was when that was when Poor Righteous Teachers had Rock This Funky Joint. And I remember it would play in there, bro. Oh, it was crazy, man.
It had to be the Trop. I feel like it had to be the Trop. Again,
but anyway, yep.
Richmond history. Excuse me.
Right.
So I would say what's next on the agenda, but you got drum stacks. Is there your man's you mentioned your producer. So you manage a producer.
Man, yeah, Kelsey. It's like, look, Kelsey is like if I had a brother, right? He would be the brother I would want. If you could pick your brother, you know what I'm saying? He would be the brother I want. You know what I mean? Younger, it's like early 30s, passionate about producing. So, the title came early on, was like, yeah, manage him and, stuff like that. Really, it's just like a mentor to him. You know what I mean? And get advice, but he's doing his thing. He has he and a guy named Overlord. They have like the Overlord radio show. They put a bunch of stuff he's doing, man. He has this artist he's working with, Kumbaya. You may see on Instagram. So like they working. He's just doing it, man. And he's growing, bro. Like it's just, I'm passionate about like the producers and like just seeing them grow. and not just in production, but just their lives. You know what I mean? I can't speak to everybody, but that's why even like you, Ali, mentioning this, and you know, giving me the opportunity to speak to you. You know, it's important, man, that we, you know, if someone gets something out of what I said, you know, something what you said, you know what I'm saying? Because every conversation, even though you're technically quote unquote interviewing me, you're saying things that provoke, and then you may make a comment. It's like that's really the greatest value we can give people, is if we can help them not to have to go through certain things or put certain pieces together to just help advance their life a little bit faster. You know what I mean? Than
Absolutely.
having to like scrape your knees on everything, read a book about everything. Like, you know what I mean? Obviously reading is good, but just getting people going a little bit faster, you know, to their destiny, you know.
Are you are you a learn? Well, I guess you kind of said it just now. Learn by trial and error as opposed to being told. Because you know, sometimes people say you have to go through it to understand it, which is true in some
Mm,
cases. But I have two daughters, 21, 17,
okay.
and I don't have any problem telling them, like, I mean, things gonna happen, but I'm just telling you, look for this, this, and this.
Right, right.
I think there's value to both ways, but are you more one way than the other?
Um, when I was younger, I was a little bit more stubborn, and you know, people trying to tell me something, and I'm like, no, I have to experience that, and I'm not a fan of that like anymore. Like I will experience things that I've never experienced before, but I became a lifelong learner after, you know, really technically, I didn't really like reading growing up. But after I started reading the Bible, and just like that made me love reading. And then from there, it parlayed into just doing research about everything. So learning from other people's experiences, and then passing that learning on to help people. Not and look, like I tell my daughter, older daughter, stuff, younger daughter, like this, you can, for like you said, with your daughters, you can frame it up. You'll say, this is what I'm seeing. I know this, but at the end of the day, you have to take this information. And I'm not going to be mad if you, now, if it's something totally detrimental, like, of course, you know, say that. But like, all right, you want to go through this, you know, I'm letting you know this. And really what it does, it brings a respect for your word, like the wisdom that you have. And
True.
that actually can bring you closer to your, you know, to your kids, you know what I mean? And it has for me when I've said certain things to both of my daughters, like, you know, this, and oh, dad, okay, okay, all right. But we have to be willing to, you know, let them experience it, you know, and then come back and not beat them over the head like, oh, I told you. No, just like, and then they come back, and then when you say something else, you know, it's like it's a respect. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So, but no, I'm a fan of trying to learn as much as I can from other people's experiences without having to go through everything. You know what I mean?
indeed.
For
I
sure.
think
But that's a great question.
the older we get, I think the more we're like, if I would have known this, then I would have went this route. You know,
Uh,
it's a lot of
eh,
that. I guess that's maturity and fact. It's just fact.
yeah, and one of the ones that people don't really talk about, let's say in the, particularly in Black and Brown community stuff, is like something as simple as investing. I mean, man,
All of that, anything to do with finances.
right?
But I mean, I feel like the key to that, well, the issue with that is that we had to get we were trying to hold on. We're just trying to
Hmm.
hold on and make
Hmm.
it better for the next person. So a lot of times we're not going to put that money here. We're not
Right,
gonna take that chance to go here because
right,
we're just looking at this. I got to do this to make sure that this person has a chance to soar over
right.
what I've been able to do.
But the thing is, even if we didn't actually have it, that the thing that differentiates the, because you have people in other communities who have people who are not good with money, or and you have blacks who are really good with money. Like it's not even that. But what I'm talking about is the knowledge of it. You know what I mean? And that's the thing that I look back on, the knowledge of how to handle. I know how to handle basic money, man, balance your checkbook, stuff like that, but investments, things like that. And I saw a little bit of it, parents owning like companies and stuff, you know what I mean? So you got some of it. So I'm not saying I was totally deficient, but something as simple as when I got whether it be the record advances or some royalty checks that were decent at the time, if I would have had the knowledge, not to where it's like, okay, I got this extra amount of money that's here, and not go blow it on whatever, something that I don't even remember. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Could have changed the trajectory of my whole family. You know what I mean? Apple stock when it was $15. Like, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. You know what I mean? And we can't, cry over that, over spilled milk per se, but it's like, that's the one thing that I want to do is, and that's what, like, even the drum stacks thing, really the expansion of it is like teaching things. If we had, and more knowledge is available more now than ever, you know what I mean, with YouTube and stuff like that, but impressing it upon people to like look at certain things, you know what I mean? And that's it. You can't make people do it, like we talked about, they have free will to do what they do, but it just needs to be spoken about more, you know what I mean? In our households and stuff like that, just how to, if you do, the knowledge is pretty much free, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And when you do get the money or whatever, then you know what to do with it. Like, you know what I mean? That's, because like you said, we were holding people down or being held down, but we all have come across a little excess at different points in our lives. You know what I mean? No matter how big it was, and it's like that we could have done something with. So
true. Because a lot of times you said change the trajectory of your family, of your life, of your situation in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, and I'm gonna let you go after this. A lot of times, I think that, well, I guess we look back and we see moments that seem small at the time, but they could have definitely changed the trajectory of our whole existence. A lot of times, whole existence.
Right.
Man.
But we learn, you know what I mean? And that's the thing. And if we didn't fully learn, you know what I mean? And we're both around the same age, in the 40s, right? So, it's like if we could just do what you're talking about and just turn back around to have children and get them a little bit ahead, maybe they won't get it until they're 25, you know what I mean? Or 30, but that makes them get it a little bit sooner. If we can just kind of at least change the direction of the tide, you know what I'm saying? We're doing what we need to do.
Agreed. Bruh, I appreciate you dropping by.
You too, man. Thank you.
Shawn J. Period, everybody. You want to drop your social media?
Yes, it's Shawn J. Period Music, SHAWNJ, and the period spelled out music, Instagram and Facebook, and Drumstacks at Instagram.
Definitely. Bruh, I appreciate you once again. Shawn J. Period.
You too. Thank you, brother.